Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Karunapurna Sudabdhe Kabalita Ghana Vishwarupa Kiranavalya Arunachala Paramatman Aruno Bhavachitta Kanja Suvikasaya Vande Sri Ramana Maharshi Acharyasya Padabjam Yo me darshayadhisham Bhantam dhvantamatityaha Akhanda Satchidanande Parabrahmanya Laukike Vilasantam Gurum Nomim Sarvada Hridyaham Bhaje. Upadesa Manjari, episode number 2. 23. It is an established rule that so long as there is the least idea of I am the doer, self-knowledge cannot be attained. But is it possible for an aspirant who is a householder to discharge his duties properly without this sense? As there is no rule that action should depend upon a sense of being the doer, it is unnecessary to doubt whether any action will take place without a doer or an act of doing. Although the officer of a government treasury may appear, in the eyes of others, to be doing his duty attentively and responsibly all day long, he will be discharging his duties without attachment, thinking, I have no real connection with all this money, and without a sense of involvement in his mind. In the same manner, a wise householder may also discharge without attachment the various household duties which fall to his lot according to his past karma, like a tool in the hands of another. Action and knowledge are not obstacles to each other. 24. Of what use to his family is a wise householder who is unmindful of his bodily comforts, and of what use is his family to him? Although he is entirely unmindful of his bodily comforts, if owing to his past karma, his family has to subsist by his efforts, he may be regarded as doing service to others. If it is asked whether the wise man derives any benefit from the discharge of domestic duties, it may be answered that as he has already attained the state of complete satisfaction, which is the sum total of all benefits and the highest good of all, he does not stand to gain anything more by discharging family duties. 25. How can cessation of activity, nivritti, and peace of mind be attained in the midst of household duties, which are of the nature of constant activity? As the activities of the wise man exist only in the eyes of others and not in his own, although he may be accomplishing immense tasks, he really does nothing. Therefore, his activities do not stand in the way of inaction and peace of mind, for he knows the truth that all activities take place in his mere presence and that he does nothing. Hence, he will remain as the silent witness of all the activities taking place. 26. Just as the sage's past karma is the cause of his present activities, Will not the impressions, vasanas, caused by his present activities adhere to him in future? Only one who is free from all the latent tendencies, vasanas, is a sage. That being so, how can the tendencies of karma affect him who is entirely unattached to activity? 27. What is the meaning of Brahmacharya? Only inquiry into Brahman should be called Brahmacharya. 28. Will the practice of Brahmacharya, which is followed in conformity with the 4 orders of life, ashramas, be a means of knowledge? As the various means of knowledge, such as control of senses, etc., are included in Brahmacharya, the virtuous practices duly followed by those who belong to the order of students, Brahmacharyans, are very helpful for their improvement. 29. Can one enter the order of ascetics, sannyasa, directly from the order of students, Brahmacharya? Those who are competent need not formally enter the orders of Brahmacharya, etc., in the order laid down. One who has realized his self does not distinguish between the various orders of life. Therefore, no order of life either helps or hinders him. 30. Does an aspirant, sadhaka, lose anything by not observing the rules of caste and orders of life? As the attainment, anushtana, that is practice, of knowledge is the supreme end of all other practices, there is no rule that one who remains in any order of life and constantly acquires knowledge is bound to follow the rules laid down for that order of life. If he follows the rules of caste and orders of life, he does so for the good of the world. He does not derive any benefit by observing the rules, nor does he lose anything by not observing them. Chapter 3, Experience, Anubhava. 1. What is the light of consciousness? It is the self-luminous existence consciousness which reveals to the seer the world of names and forms both inside and outside. The existence of this existence consciousness can be inferred by the objects illuminated by it. It does not become the object of consciousness. 2. What is knowledge, vijnana? It is that tranquil state of existence consciousness which is experienced by the aspirant and which is like the waveless ocean or the motionless ether. 3. What is bliss? It is the experience of joy or peace in the state of vijnana, free of all activities and similar to deep sleep. This is also called the state of kevala nirvikalpa, remaining without concepts. 4. What is the state beyond bliss? It is the state of unceasing peace of mind which is found in the state of absolute quiescence, Jagrat Sushupti, that is, sleep with awareness, which resembles inactive deep sleep. In this state, in spite of the activity of the body and the senses, there is no external awareness, like a child immersed in sleep who is not conscious of the food given to him by his mother. Note, the acts of sleeping children, like eating and drinking, are acts only in the eyes of others and not in their own. They do not therefore really do those acts in spite of their appearing to do them. A yogi who is in this state is inactive even while engaged in activity. This is called Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, natural state of absorption in oneself without concepts. 5. What is the authority for saying that the entire moving and unmoving worlds depend upon oneself? The self means the embodied being. It is only after the energy which was latent in the state of deep sleep emerges with the idea of I that all objects are experienced. The self is present in all perceptions as the perceiver. There are no objects to be seen when the I is absent. For all these reasons, it may undoubtedly be said that everything comes out of the self and goes back to the self. 6. As the bodies and the selves animating them are everywhere actually observed to be innumerable, how can it be said that the self is only one? If the idea I am the body is accepted, the selves are multiple. Note, the idea that one is one's body is what is called Hridaya Grandhi, knot of the heart. Of the various knots, this one, which binds together what is conscious with what is insentient, is what causes bondage. End of note. The state in which this idea vanishes is the self, since in that state there are no other objects. It is for this reason that the self is regarded as one only. 7. What is the authority for saying that Brahman can be apprehended by the mind and at the same time that it cannot be apprehended by the mind? It cannot be apprehended by the impure mind but can be apprehended by the pure mind. 8. What is pure mind and what is impure mind? When the indefinable power of Brahman separates itself from Brahman and in union with the reflection of consciousness, Chidabhasa, assumes various forms, it is called the impure mind. When it becomes free from the reflection of consciousness, Abhasa, through discrimination, it is called the pure mind. Its state of union with the Brahman is its apprehension of Brahman. The energy which is accompanied by the reflection of consciousness is called the impure mind, and its state of separation from Brahman is its non-apprehension of Brahman. 9. Is it possible to overcome, even while the body exists, the karma, prarabdha, which is said to last till the end of the body? Yes, if the agent, doer upon whom the karma depends, namely the ego, which has come into existence between the body and the self, merges in its source and loses its form, will the karma which depends upon it alone survive? Therefore, when there is no I, there is no karma. 10. As the self is existence and consciousness, what is the reason for describing it as different from the existent and the non-existent, the sentient and the insentient? Although the self is real, as it comprises everything, it does not give room for questions involving duality about its reality or unreality. Therefore, it is said to be different from the real and the unreal. Similarly, even though it is consciousness, since there is nothing for it to know or to make itself known to, it is said to be different from the sentient and the insentient. Chapter 4, Attainment, Arudha. 1. What is the state of attainment of knowledge? It is firm and effortless abidance in the self in which the mind which has become one with the self does not subsequently emerge again at any time. That is, just as everyone usually and naturally has the idea, I am not a goat, nor a cow, nor any other animal but a human, when he thinks of his body, so also when he has the idea, I am not the principles, tattvas, beginning with the body and ending with sound, nada, but the self which is existence, consciousness and bliss, the innate self-consciousness, atma prajna, he is said to have attained firm knowledge. 2. To which of the 7 stages of knowledge, jnana bhumikas, does the sage jnani belong? Note, the 7 jnana bhumikas are 1. Subhecha, the desire for enlightenment. 2. Vicharana, inquiry. 3. Tanumanasa, tenuous mind. 4. Sattvapatti, self-realization. 5. Asamsakti, non-attachment. 6. Padartha bhavana, non-perception of objects. 7. Turyaga, transcendence. Those who have attained the last 4 bhumikas are called Brahmavid, Brahmavidvara, Brahmavidvariya and Brahmavidvarishtha respectively. End of note. He belongs to the 4th stage. 3. If that is so, why have 3 more stages superior to it been distinguished? The marks of the stages 4 to 7 are based upon the experiences of the realized person, Jivan Mukta. They are not states of knowledge and release. So far as knowledge and release are concerned, no distinction whatever is made in these 4 stages. 4. As liberation is common to all, why is the Varishtha, that is the most excellent, alone praised excessively? So far as the Varishta's common experience of bliss is concerned, he is extolled only because of the special merit acquired by him in his previous births, which is the cause of it. 5. As there is no one who does not desire to experience constant bliss, what is the reason why all sages, jnanis, do not attain the state of Varishta? It is not to be attained by mere desire or effort. Karma, prarabdha is its cause. As the ego dies along with its cause even in the 4th stage, bhumika, what agent is there beyond that stage to desire anything or to make efforts? So long as they make efforts, they will not be sages, jnanis. Do the sacred texts, Shrutis, which specially mention the Varishta, say that the other 3 are unenlightened persons? 6. As some sacred texts say that the supreme state is that in which the sense organs and the mind are completely destroyed, how can that state be compatible with the experience of the body and the senses? If that were so, there would not be any difference between that state and the state of deep sleep. Further, how can it be said to be the natural state when it exists at one time and not at another? This happens, as stated before, to some persons according to their karma, prarabdha, for some time or till death. It cannot properly be regarded as the final state. If it could, it would mean that all great souls and the Lord, who are the authors of the Vedantic works, Jnana Grandhas, and the Vedas, were unenlightened persons. If the supreme state is that in which neither the senses nor the mind exist, and not the state in which they exist, how can it be the perfect state, Paripurnam? As karma alone is responsible for the activity or inactivity of the sages, great souls have declared the state of Sahaja Nirvikalpa, the natural state without concepts alone, to be the ultimate state. 7. What is the difference between ordinary sleep and waking sleep? Jagrat Sushupti. In ordinary sleep, there are not only no thoughts but also no awareness. In waking sleep, there is awareness alone. That is why it is called awake while sleeping. That is, the sleep in which there is awareness. 8. Why is the self described both as the fourth state, Turiya, and beyond the fourth state, Turiyatita? Turiya means that which is the fourth. The experiencers, jivas, of the three states of waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, known as Visva, Taijasa, and Prajna, who wandered successively in these three states, are not the self. It is with the object of making this clear, namely that the self is that which is different from them and which is the witness of these states, that it is called the fourth, Turiya. When this is known, the three experiences disappear and the idea that the self is a witness, that it is the fourth, also disappears. That is why the self is described as beyond the fourth, Turiyatita. 9. What is the benefit derived by the sage from the sacred books, Shrutis? The sage, who is the embodiment of the truths mentioned in the scriptures, has no use for them. 10. Is there any connection between the attainment of supernatural powers, siddhis, and liberation, mukti? Enlightened inquiry alone leads to liberation. Supernatural powers are all illusory appearances created by the power of Maya, Maya Shakti. Self-realization, which is permanent, is the only true accomplishment, siddhi. Accomplishments which appear and disappear, being the effect of Maya, cannot be real. They are accomplished with the object of enjoying fame, pleasures, etc. They come unsought to some persons through their karma. Know that union with Brahman is the real aim of all accomplishments. This is also the state of liberation, Aikya Mukti, known as union, Sayujya. 11. If this is the nature of liberation, moksha, why do some scriptures connect it with the body and say that the individual soul can attain liberation only when it does not leave the body? It is only if bondage is real that the liberation and the nature of its experiences have to be considered. So far as the self, Purusha, is concerned, it has really no bondage in any of the four states. As bondage is merely a verbal assumption according to the emphatic proclamation of the Vedanta system, how can the question of liberation, which depends upon the question of bondage, arise when there is no bondage? Without knowing this truth, to inquire into the nature of bondage and liberation is like inquiring into the non-existent height, color, etc. of a barren woman's son or the horns of a hare. 12. If that is so, do not the descriptions of bondage and release found in the scriptures become irrelevant and untrue? No, they are not. On the contrary, the delusion of bondage fabricated by ignorance from time immemorial can be removed only by knowledge, and for this purpose the term liberation, mukti, has been usually accepted. That is all. The fact that the characteristics of liberation are described in different ways proves that they are imaginary. 13. If that is so, are not all efforts such as study, that is, hearing, reflection, etc., useless? No, they are not. The firm conviction that there is neither bondage nor liberation is the supreme purpose of all efforts. As this purpose of seeing boldly through direct experience that bondage and liberation do not exist cannot be achieved except with the aid of the aforesaid practices, these efforts are useful. 14. Is there any authority for saying that there is neither bondage nor liberation? This is decided on the strength of experience and not merely on the strength of the scriptures. 15. If it is experienced, how is it experienced? Bondage and liberation are mere linguistic terms. They have no reality of their own. Therefore, they cannot function of their own accord. It is necessary to accept the existence of some basic thing of which they are the modifications. If one inquires, for whom is there bondage and liberation, it will be seen they are for me. If one inquires, who am I, one will see that there is no such thing as the I. It will then be as clear as an amalaka fruit in one's hand that what remains is one's real being. As this truth will be naturally and clearly experienced by those who leave aside mere verbal discussions and inquire into themselves inwardly, there is no doubt that all realized persons uniformly see neither bondage nor liberation so far as the true self is concerned. 16. If truly there is neither bondage nor liberation, what is the reason for the actual experience of joys and sorrows? They appear to be real only when one turns aside from one's real nature. They do not really exist. 17. Is it possible for everyone to know directly without doubt what exactly is one's true nature? Undoubtedly it is possible. 18. How? It is the experience of everyone that even in the states of deep sleep, fainting, etc., when the entire universe, moving and stationary, beginning with the earth and ending with the unmanifested Prakriti, disappears, he does not disappear. Therefore, the state of pure being, which is common to all and which is always experienced directly by everybody, is one's true nature. The conclusion is that all experiences in the enlightened as well as the ignorant state, which may be described by newer and newer words, are opposed to one's real nature. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Sarvam Sri Ramanarpanamastu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi.